Hey everybody, Dr. Moose here again for Muscle Monday. So this muscle that we're going to talk about today is actually the one I'm sitting on right now, my gluteus maximus. So everybody's really familiar with this muscle. It's the big rump that we got on our backside. It's actually a muscle that helps us to stand up. We actually are one of the only species that has a very developed form of the gluteus maximus. Now there's other gluteus muscles, gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, that have some effect on how we kind of move laterally. But the gluteus maximus is this bigger, more developed one that allows us to fully upright and fully walk. Now, I know if you've watched sports or anything like that, you've probably heard people talk about, the glutes not activating or not being active. Now, why does this happen is a big question. So let's kind of explore some of the underlying things going on with the glute that maybe a lot of people don't know. First off, it's one of the muscles that can generate some of the most force in the entire body. So when we're doing different sports or different activities or different things like that, there's a lot of requirement or force generated or generation that is required from that. Now, our muscles and our brain and our nerves work much like a breaker box in our body. So if we put too much force in that muscle can't handle, the muscle will actually kind of down-regulate or inhibit or shut down a little bit. So if we're pushing too hard or doing too much, that can be one big thing. But some of the other things that people probably don't know about as much about is that there's actually a few things in Chinese medicine and nutrition that are actually related to the glutes. So the glutes in Chinese medicine are actually related to our reproductive organs, or the circulation sex meridian in Chinese medicine. So there's a powerful influence from hormones that can actually affect the glute muscle as well. So if we start having imbalance in our hormones, guys maybe too low of testosterone, females imbalances in progesterone and estrogen, this can actually cause this muscle to inhibit. And so those are some things that we actually may need to explore. It's like if you feel like you're doing all these PT exercises, things like that, what may be happening is you may be shifting your hormones from more of the reproductive hormones and those kind of things to stress hormones, because our hormones basically have two terminal pathways that they go down. They're either going to go down into reproductive hormones or they're going to go to stress hormones. So in times when our body's stressed out, we're maybe training too hard, we have a lot of stressful life circumstances, those kind of things going on, then we're actually start to shunt more of our reproductive hormones or our rebuilding hormones into stress hormone. And so as that stress hormone accumulates, it just does what it does. It creates more stress on our body. It causes things to break down. It reduces our body's, initially it will increase our body's ability to handle stress, but over long periods of time or sustained amounts of stress hormone, our body starts to down-regulate because it just doesn't want to, try to deal with that stress hormone and the physiological consequences of it being there all the time. So our body starts to become less receptive to that. And so what we start to see then is this actually can be, the glutes can be a great indicator of that. Is our system overloaded? Are we training too hard? Do we have too much stress? Is there something we need to kind of modify with this whole thing? So that's something to definitely take into consideration, is like if you're doing a lot of these PT exercises and these rehab exercises and you're not getting your glutes turned back on, there may be some other things that need to be addressed underneath, like doing some type of hormonal analysis, doing some other type of nutrition, which we'll talk about in a minute, that can help that. There's also some specific reflexes that we can utilize to activate these muscles, almost like going in, how we were talking about the muscles and nerves working like a breaker. We can go through and flip those breakers and turn that muscle back on. There's a specific sequencing of things we can do to reactivate that. So one of the things we want to look at now is actually the nutrition that is related to that. So big things that actually affect stress hormone or reducing stress hormone are going to be minerals like zinc, magnesium, potassium, calcium. Those ones actually have a potent effect on kind of reducing basically our nervous system stress and the cortisol response in the body. So there's been a lot of research that getting these nutrients in our body can actually help to reduce cortisol levels and stress hormone. And so zinc specifically being one of those. So there you can actually go to the store. You can go to the store and you can buy a zinc taste solution And so a lot of people will do this as kind of a preliminary test for that. So if you take some of the zinc taste solution and you hold it in your mouth and you can't taste the zinc, if it just tastes like water, that means there's a severe deficiency in zinc. When you put it in your mouth, you should immediately get a metally kind of what you would expect from putting zinc in your mouth. You should immediately taste that. And so that's a way to identify if there's a zinc issue. Now, other vitamins, vitamin E specifically is really important as a sex hormone or reproductive hormone precursor, and you can't just take the typical vitamin E off the shelf at your local, convenience store or drugstore, because those are just usually going to be one of the isolated forms. As we've talked about in some of the other videos, the antioxidant vitamins there's multiple forms of them, and so you need actually a whole food form of vitamin E with all 8 forms. So you need a mixed tocopherol and a tocotrienol, and when you have that and you start to put that in, your body can actually use that vitamin E to facilitate the normal production of your reproductive hormones and kind of start to knock down that stress hormone. Also, all of our hormones are made from cholesterol, so it's important that our body has adequate fatty acids that it can utilize to make into cholesterol. So making sure that we have like a good fish oil or omega-3 is really important. And oftentimes when people are not consuming cholesterol, sometimes the body has trouble synthesizing it, so nutrition in the liver that helps methylation, like your methylated B12, methylated folate, B6, making sure that the liver is healthy with detoxification is also super important as well too, because if we're not eating cholesterol in the diet, if we're maybe doing a vegetarian or vegan diet, our body has to synthesize its own, so we need to make sure that we're getting the proper amount of amino acids, vitamin B12, folate, B6, betaine, to make sure that our liver is getting the things it needs to methylate and function correctly. So those are some other things to keep in consideration. Is we either need to eat cholesterol so our body has it, or we need to make sure we're getting the right amino acids and vitamins to be able to produce it. So those are some things to kind of look for. If you start to see this glute not activating in your rehab procedures, or aren't working, or you're not being able to activate or keep stable in that area, or you keep feeling weakness on there, or you just feel like you're losing your push or drive in that area. So I hope you all find this interesting. Keep following us on Monday, and we'll be back next Monday with more.